me at Cello, Cello. You had me at Cello. You had me at Cello. Oh, you had me at Cello. Good afternoon, everybody. 5 o'clock on a Friday. Time for another episode of Cello Chat. Today, I get to visit with Philip Lee. Philip, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. It's nice to be here. How are you
Great.
doing?
Yeah. Oh, I'm doing very well. I'm really anxious to talk to you and ask you a number of things about what you're up to and how you do it. But it's always great to start with. It's everybody seems to have at least somewhat of a different story as to how they got started on cello in the first place and then your journey after that. So how'd you
Mhm.
get started on cello?
Well, my first instrument was actually not the cello. My first instrument was the piano. And I don't remember much because I was fairly young. So let's see. I was for piano. I think I was about 6 when I started piano, and I was 7 when I started cello. And the decision to start the piano was my parents' choice. I think they were kind of along the lines of, "Oh, piano makes you smarter," and all those things. And then the cello, I think, I don't remember this, but I was told that it was kind of like I decided that I really wanted to play it. I'm sure the Yo-Yo Ma recording that I heard at some point. And so that also kind of got added on later. Um, and I took those kind of all the way through most of elementary, middle school. And then I think as the things got more busy, and I got involved with youth orchestras and these programs and for cello, I decided to let go of piano just to kind of focus more on the cello side of things. Yeah. Um, I guess I could keep going. Should I keep going till for
Yeah,
college and
and
stuff like
then
that?
you headed out
Yeah.
east after that?
I did, yeah. So that was a really interesting time in my life because for all of high school, I was convinced that I was going to be some sort of engineer or be in the medical field, because those were interests of mine, but also, those were also things that I heard from my parents all the time too.
Yeah.
And I knew that I loved music, but the idea of having it as a career never really was seriously in my brain. I think it was also something that my parents didn't really tell me about either. So it was just something that just never really was there as an option. But then as I reached my senior year of high school, and then I was just like, oh, I wonder how I would feel if I wasn't playing cello the same way I was doing now, the capacity I was doing now. That's kind of when I was like, oh, I got really sad, and I was just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna try to go for it. And so that was a scramble because it was a little bit late at that point to kind of pull repertoire together. Um, but yeah, it happened. And so yeah, so what ended up happening because I was really uncertain about myself too, I only applied to schools that offered dual degree programs. Just to have, I felt at the time was kind of a safety net. So where I ended up going was Eastman and University of Rochester. And so I was there for their dual degree program. And then it became pretty clear once I got there that which side I really enjoyed the most. It I'm sure every school is kind of different in how they do their program with the 2 degrees. U of R and Eastman actually have two separate campuses. And when you're enrolled there as a dual degree student, you pick, okay, do I want to stay over at the university campus or do I want to stay at the Eastman campus? And I was like, okay, I want to stay at the Eastman campus because that's way more cool. I thought it was cool. And I knew that I enjoyed playing more and I wanted to be in that environment. And yeah, so that's kind of what happened there. Um, and then after my time there, I went on to DePaul in Chicago, which is where I was originally from. I'm from Evanston. And so that was kind of like nice to come back to that area to study and spend more time with my family. And then, yeah, and after that point, I decided to go to do a diploma over at Jacobs in Bloomington. And yeah, and then that's basically what happened. And in the middle of that time, that's when everything shut down due to COVID. And so that was a really interesting time in my life, and that kind of also that really shaped kind of the path that I kind of ended up going on as I went forward. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Let's see.
Mhm.
And at Eastman, you studied with David Ying.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been
Yeah.
on. I got to interview him, and what a
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful cellist and wonderful mind.
Hmm.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was, I would say, the really unique thing about his studio, I don't know if it's still the case this way. It's been at this point, it's been like 10 years over about since I've been there. But he has a small, very small studio, because he's also in the quartet. And so his
Yeah.
studio is kind of like half size. And so it was a very, very intimate studio setting. We were all very, very close. And David Ying was very, very, I would say, nurturing in his teaching. Very musically driven, but also it was a very, very tough time for me because I came into that setting completely unprepared for what a conservatory setting would be like. I was very overwhelmed. I like had very low confidence because also there, I would say that Eastman, you know, I was unprepared for how good like cellists could be, I would say. I mean, I knew cellos could be good because, in Chicago, there are a number of really young, good cellists, but
Yeah.
to live in the same environment as them day by day, that was completely different. And I was very just like, oh man, like I'm way out of my element here. And so I felt so behind. And then part of me was thinking, like, I don't even know why I got to the school, and things like that. And so, but, got through it. And yeah, he was very supportive through a lot of those tough times. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. And let me see. Um, did I read somewhere online that the dual degree was in math?
Yeah, yes, that's right. So yeah, I should give a little background here, because my undergraduate was somewhat of a mess, I would say. I mean, learned a lot, but yeah, it was a really really tough time. So another thing that was very interesting that happened, was so when you apply for the dual degree, you get two different financial aid packages. You get one from the university and you get one from the conservatory, and you have to accept one.
Ah,
And so, my family not being, we couldn't really dish out that much money to help me. So, what ended up happening is that I got a much bigger scholarship from the university. And so I took that offer there. And so I had mentioned before previously that like what my kind of interest was clearly the musical side of things, at that time. And I almost right off the bat was like, I kind of want to drop the math or because it's just, I feel like it's just making me more busy, and it is really tough to do two degrees at the same time. And so I was just like, I just want more time to practice and focus on that because I already felt so behind, but I couldn't drop it because I had to keep it for the financial aid,
uh-huh.
because otherwise we couldn't afford to go to the school.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
and so yeah, go ahead.
where I was going with this
Mhm.
actually is, I mean, it's funny to me the degree to which it seems like musicians,
Mhm.
no musicians are ambivalent about math. They either are fascinated by the math and science of how music
Mhm.
works, or they just don't want to have anything to do with it whatsoever, ever, you know? And
Yeah.
so I'm just curious, are you also the mathematic part of your brain, are you intrigued by just the workings of music from
I
a
would
mathematical
I would
analytic?
say so. Yeah. Sorry, I got a little off topic before,
No,
but
no, it's
no.
great. This,
Yeah. No, I was just at a Suzuki Institute earlier, and I just had this thought because I was, thinking about, arm length and how that affects, and the height of the proportion to the height of the cello, and
mhm.
how that kind of affects how we, get power and like the levers and all those things and how it works. And so what I did, it was like a little, maybe a little crazy, but I was just like, I'm gonna measure every cellist's arm here.
Oh,
And so
wow.
yeah, so I went to every single teacher there, and I was like, okay, how long is your arm? And so I measured it, and I was just like thinking, and then I just compared it to the height of their cellos, and I can't say that I've gotten anywhere yet. That was very recent, but it's just something I'm thinking about. Like those things definitely do interest me, just the efficiency and the mechanics of how we can make this sound. Of course, there's the artistic side, but it's always fun to
It's
tap into
both.
that side of
Yeah,
cello
it's
playing.
yeah. Have you ever checked out the Gerhard Mantel book?
I have not.
The
I should check that
principle,
out.
yeah, principles of cello playing. I mean, again, it's the sort of thing that people either love that book or they hate it in terms of
Mhm.
just the degree of specificity of now this angle and then this motion starts here and is immediately followed by this and
You're
it
right, right, right.
went into a lot of detail like that. You might like it. All
Mhm.
right. And so back in Chicago, now you are making a career that probably a lot of people who watch this series of interviews are curious about for themselves,
Mhm.
for young people, where you play in orchestras, you play gigs, and you also do a lot of teaching. So I guess the first question I want to ask is, what first drew you to the teaching side?
Mm. Well, it's a combination of a couple things. So I always knew that I enjoyed sharing knowledge from a young age. That always kind of was fun for me. Kind of like it always felt good to feel like I was helping someone. And that I always enjoyed. So that's the first part of it. I always knew that I would enjoy that aspect of it. And then another part of it is, my music teachers to me have always been probably some of the most influential people in my life. And so to me, it was just like, at a certain point when I've worked closely with enough people, I was just like, oh well, I want to be that. I want to do that same thing. Um, and that was another big factor. And then just three, I just like understanding people. I like understanding how people think and things like that. Just it's very curious, and it's people are so different, and it's a fun
It's
challenge that
remarkable.
will never change. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool. I love that answer. I love it. So, and let's see. Again, you in your website,
Mhm.
you speak to you put an emphasis on not just the individual time of lessons, but what you accomplish in the group classes as well.
Mhm.
Can you talk
Yeah,
about how the group class portion is important to you?
yeah. So yeah, there are a lot of people that come to me, parents that come to me for their students to take lessons, and they're only interested in private lessons usually. And I think that a lot of people can kind of get away with that, but we all know that some of the most fun, joyous experiences we have musically is when you play in a group. Like I love quartets, I love ensembles, I love orchestras. It's all great, and actually, I prefer those probably more over solo recitals. But even in solo recitals, you're playing usually with a partner on
Yeah.
piano, and so even then, that's collaboration. And I think group classes are just a really great way to experience that at a really really young age because when you're starting out, especially, you can't really play in an orchestra or chamber music in the same capacity that we do when you're older. So ideally also what happens is that, those kids, let's say they start in like a very, very basic level group, they kind of grow together as they improve. And that's also kind of like, oh, it's like your cohort or whatever. It's like you're just getting better all together. And that's another amazing thing you see over the years.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. Okay, so then let's make this a two-parter.
Mhm.
How did you get drawn then to Suzuki training? And then
Mm.
now that you have it, how do you find the Suzuki approach just kind of informs all of your approach to teaching?
Sure. Well, so this I have to kind of go all the way back to like my start. And so my first instrument piano was traditional piano, we call it. We're not Suzuki based at all. And my cello instruction was Suzuki from the beginning, actually. So I was a Suzuki student as well, and I did all the group classes and all the things that are involved with that from a young age. And I saw both sides to it. And so I guess you could kind of say that it just was clear to me that that's what was right, you know? It just felt so uh comfortable, I would say. And I also saw, through those experiences, they have all these workshops where from big workshops where cellists from all over the place kind of gather for like a week or two at a institute and things like that. And you can just see like how widespread and you know and and diverse actually it was. It wasn't like to me the idea of it wasn't like very specific. It actually was very open, which is what I liked about it. It was very diverse. And you could kind of mold it to kind of in a way that works well. And I think, the thing that to me that was the most important thing about the Suzuki approach is actually the involvement of the parent. So one of the big foundations of Suzuki is like the triangle, right? The teacher,
Yeah.
the parents, and the student. And when I think about especially cello playing, like string instrument playing, I'm like, in a young age, the parent does have to be involved, like 100%, I think. I mean, I guess theoretically you could do it without the parent, but it just becomes much more difficult, like
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
get a 4-year-old on their own to practice on their own. And I
With
just
an
like
attention span
imagined
that long.
exactly. And I imagine that I'm just like, oh man, like how would that even be possible? Like I couldn't have done it. And so the thing that was really interesting to me was that, my mom, like, when I was doing my piano lessons, even then she worked with me at home as the almost as though it was Suzuki. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so in my mind, I think that the reason why I was drawn to it is because it just seems like a very natural, nurturing thing that I think should exist in a family as you kind of embark on this musical journey. And so to me, it just made sense in that way.
Great.
Um,
Great.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it was one of those people with whom you crossed paths, Tanya Carey.
Yeah, I actually did some training with Tanya Carey. Yeah, that's right.
And
Yeah.
she's just another one of these, just a force
Mhm.
of nature that we're so lucky to have.
Mhm. Yeah.
Just
Yeah, we had her at a clinician at one of our Music for Youth workshops, and at that time I was just starting there, and she just like looked at me and was like, "Oh, you should take some training with me." I was like, "Sure, let's do it." And that's how it happens. Yeah. And
nice.
at that point I barely knew her, so that was really, really nice of her to just say, just do it, you know?
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Well, let's talk outreach for a moment too, because
Hmm.
kind of, I guess I'll say, unfortunately, this field of music, this string playing as a whole, I mean,
Hmm.
it would definitely go on at some level without the degree of advocacy that so many of us do, but it wouldn't go on to the same degree. We have
Hmm.
to uh, be champions of it and get the word out, let people know, yeah, this is a possibility for you too. And so you are involved in some community music programs and a program
Hmm.
called Music for Youth.
That's right.
Would
Yeah.
would you talk about those sorts of things a
Yeah.
bit? Yeah.
Yeah, so Music for Youth is kind of different than your typical community music school. Like for example, Music Center in Chicago or DePaul, the community music, those are kind of extracurricular, if you will. They're usually, you have your normal school and then you take classes through the community school. The Music for Youth is a little bit different because it's a Suzuki program um that's partially funded by the district actually. And we operate within the schools, so during the school day,
Cool.
which is kind of nice because as you said, you're touching so many more, you know, musical minds that you normally wouldn't be able to. And the fact that it's also partially funded by the district also makes it that much more affordable because we all know that music lessons are also don't come cheap sometimes. Um, and so it's a great way of just exposing a lot of people to things that you normally couldn't get in a different setting, or sometimes families don't have time to bring the kids out all the time for all those things. So yeah, it's based, but it's otherwise it's exactly the same. We come into the school, the kids will leave class, they'll take their private lesson, and then they'll go back to class. And then after schools on Thursdays, that's when we kind of we have an orchestra or several orchestras actually. And then we also have group classes there for the kids to be in. Yeah, so that's generally how that one works.
That's great. That's great. It's interesting to see different places try different models,
Hmm.
of getting exposure to, well, I mean, the arts broadly, but music in particular.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's very different from how they do it, for example, in Europe or a lot of Asia, but it it seemed like a number of places are really invested in finding something that really services the young students in a way that, inspires them and lets them
Hmm.
know that this is something that could be a part of their lives.
Yeah, I would say largely, Music for Youth was the reason why that program itself started actually was because the district actually cut funding to the in-school orchestras.
Aha.
And so there was no string program. And
Mhm.
so what happened was that the parents, so it's a parent-led organization. The boards are all parents of the students, and they basically said like we want to get this to happen. And so that's how it started, and it was all the families that got it to go. And so that I think that's why this program in particular is very important, is because it shows really the importance of the parents and the and what they want for their kids and how they can kind of get things going, because in the end they actually have the most influence, I think, in a school district in a
Well,
lot of ways.
that's cool. I'm
Yeah.
glad you added that part. That's interesting. All right. So now, several of the things that you've already said address this
Mhm.
question already, but one of the things I like to ask guests on the program is
Mhm.
about this topic of motivation. There's times when various students, just through, sometimes it can just be through the age that the stage that they're going through or whatever, that they could use a little bit of an additional boost in terms
Mhm.
of motivation to practice and to play the instrument. Do you have some strategies to help students when they're in a situation like that?
Yeah, it's something that I constantly think about, actually, because, and I also think about my past of, because I was definitely not a good practice. I cried every single practice session.
Oh
I was
no.
like, I, I don't, but I think about that, and I wonder, like, I love playing music, but then why was I so like against practicing for it? And so, part of it is, so one big thing that I really tell my families, students, and parents to really make sure that they do when they practice is always make sure that there's a goal set, a very, very clear goal. And it can be something very, very simple. It could be something a little more abstract, but probably for the younger ones, a little more simple and tangible. And ideally, it's a goal that the young ones set for themselves. I think that's important because I think where a lot of practice can get frustrating is like, one, you're practicing, but you don't know what you're doing. Like you kind of have an idea of what you're going for, but like you don't really. And that happens to me still all the time in my practice. I'll be playing, like, I've been doing some Schumann recently. I'll be playing. It's like I'm playing it, but what am I even doing here? Like, do I even know what I'm trying to get it to sound like? I have this abstract idea, but not clearly. And so, yeah, I think that's one thing that helps reduce a lot of frustration, is just know exactly what you're going for. And that's a lot easier to explain to a parent than it is to a kid. But the most important thing is that the child understands it. So a lot of my goals in our lessons is actually to establish what we're going for, so that during the week they know exactly what they need to do. And usually then it becomes a lot less stressful and overwhelming for the kids.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny if they don't have a goal already in mind, it seems like those are the times that then the goal just seems to be to run out the clock. You just stare at
Right,
the clock,
exactly.
and
Hmm.
what are you accomplishing then? That just leads to dread.
Hmm.
Wow. All right. So, Philip, what do you have
Yeah.
coming down the pike? Projects or performances? What does the rest of 2025 hold in store?
Oh man. Right now a lot of my time is just getting ready for the school years. It's all just scheduling. But I do hope to put down a recital down the road at some point. So if you're in the area, I think I'm not, again, I don't know where it'll be, but it's probably going to be around the Chicago area. Keep an eye out for that.
All right.
But I think that's about it. Yeah. Nothing really planned outside of just getting my teaching going and then
All right.
getting some repertoire ready.
Well,
Yeah.
I hope you consider doing some more videos, instructional
Mhm.
videos. I think I remember seeing one on YouTube about bow hold. It
Oh
was
yeah.
it was very thorough. It was very good. Just imagery of
Hmm.
a jellyfish and these sorts of things
Yeah.
resonate so much more easier for a student to remember if there's some sort of
Hmm.
image to tie it to. And anyway, I thought it was very thorough.
Thank you. Appreciate
Well,
that.
yeah, best of luck to
Yeah.
you. I know in some ways, just trying to be as prepared as possible, and
Hmm.
then things come up, and
That's right.
you
Yeah.
roll with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for being on the program,
Yeah.
Philip. It's
Thank you,
been a real
Benjamin. Yeah.
pleasure visiting with you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And everybody out there, happy practicing all week. We'll meet back the same time next Friday. Take care.
You had me at Jello, Jello. You had me at Jello.